Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Kottabos Space Program, where today we are having a look at the Lonesome Robots Altair Lander AresV mod, which is being made by forum user Silent Velcro. And what this glorious little piece of work looks to add into the game is all the parts necessary, plus a few extras, to build the Altair Lander, which I hope I'm pronouncing right, though knowing me, probably not. And for those of you who don't know what this particular lander is, or rather was supposed to be, it was a planned part of the Constellation program and was meant to be the lander that would one day take our brave astronauts back to the moon. But of course it was sadly cancelled, and that's why I really love mods like this one, as I just really love the idea of playing around with spaceships that could have been. So let's jump right on into the VAB and have a look at what this particular mod does offer us. And let's grab ourselves a Mark 1-2 command pod for size comparison's sake, and then turn on our typical mod filters from Janitor's Closet. And at this point, I should also point out something. Now, we're going to go through a fair number of different parts here, and all in all, this particular mod is more or less the complete package. It has everything needed to build this particular lander, plus a rocket to get it into space. But it is not an island unto itself. Much like pretty much all the other Lonesome Robot mods by Silent Velcro, it is meant to work in conjunction with other Lonesome Robot mods. In particular, this is meant to be used with the Hoyo CSM and Aries 1X mods. And so with that out of the way, let's take a look at the actual parts we do get, and the first, of course, is the Altair Ascent stage capsule, our main mod, which let's just our capsule here, module, that's the word I'm looking for. Wow, flub those couple of words there. And what this is going to offer you is quite a bit. It has a 4 Kerbal crew capacity, but here's the fun part. It doesn't need a Kerbal to actually fly. It is an unmanned command pod, which makes it ideal, at least in my brain, for potential rescue missions. Now, besides that, it also does have a built-in generator that will turn monopropellant into electric charge. It has a reaction wheel, the typical crew report, and of course 200 electric charge and a nice battery there. And is a pretty cool little part. It does have its own internal view, and yeah, basically is just a giant 2-story tin can, as you have the flight deck up here and then the sort of I don't even know what to call it, secondary deck there, and of course with the hatch right there. Overall, very fun capsule, and with a lot of fun parts that we're going to look at for this thing. And so let's move down to the fuel tanks, where the first one we have is the Altair Ascent stage of fuel and RCS, and this has some own built-in RCS engines, 252 liquid fuel, 308 oxidizer, and 120 monopropellant, and goes just right onto the capsule there in an internal node in the center. So we can just pop that on, and it is gorgeous. Just look at all the detailing on that. Very, very nice looking indeed. And I really like the RCS units out here. It's very cool, and of course, very useful. And with the extra monopropellant, you've got plenty for RCS maneuverability, and of course for that generator on the inside of the capsule. Now, the next thing that we have here is the Altair Descent stage, which, if we zoom out a bit, as it is pretty big, and this thing just pops in right there. Excellent. And of course the capsule fits into the center bit there, but of course we don't have the engine on it yet, so we can't exactly pop it on there quite yet, but this descent stage is quite nice. It has, of course, its own built-in decoupler, 360 liquid fuel, 440 oxidizer, and 80 monopropellant, and a nice attachment point on the bottom for its own engine. Now, the next fuel tank we have is gigantic. It is the AresV core stage liquid fuel tank that holds a whopping 18,000 liquid fuel and 23,000 oxidizer, and we're actually going to put this thing sideways on here because, oh boy, it's big. It's really big. There you go. Gigantic. And as you can see over here, it does have 4 places for engines at the bottom, which is always quite handy. And then, of course, you just attach it to the rest of your rocket right there. Very nice indeed, and just overall, just a really, really big fuel tank. If you need it, there it is. And then we have the Aries 5, a Kerbin departure stage, which is meant to then go sort of, below this bit, and actually make it so that your whole capsule, etc., can make it to the moon or wherever else it needs to go. So let's actually pop it onto here real quick, and you'll notice that it does have 2 attachment points on the outside here, and that is for some fairings that we'll get to in a little bit, and of course it does have a place down at the bottom for a single engine. Now, other than that, it is also an unmanned command pod, which is quite convenient, so of course your Kerbals can, use this to get to the moon, then descend to the moon on the descent stage, and you can still have this in orbit without a Kerbal on board for your convenience. Now, besides that, it has a built-in data transmitter, RCS, reaction wheel, SAS, electric charge of 2,000, liquid fuel at 6,600, monopropellant of 400, and oxidizer of 7,300. And the RCS ports in question that it has are down here along this bottom edge, which I do quite like. A lot of good detail down there. Very, very nicely made. Well modeled. I do enjoy it. And yeah, that is the various fuel tanks there. We are going to leave this here, though, for another part we'll look at in a moment. But first, 2 engines, where let's actually sort of cycle these things around here a bit. Now, the first engine we're going to look at is the Altair Ascent stage, which, of course, goes on to our little capsule. And let's pop it on there and then look at the stats. It, of course, has a built-in alternator producing 1 electric charge per second, max thrust of 70 kilonewtons in vacuum, and 390 on the engine ISP in vacuum, and a gimbling range of 1%, and is a very nice little engine, fits the capsule well. And what I love the most about it is the on this RCS fuel rig, it has piping that goes along the bottom, and then the engine fits perfectly into that whole thing, so it actually seems like the engine is tied into the fuel system of the ship. I really do like that little detail. Very well made, very well done, a cool part. So let us actually zoom out here, and with the engine on it, we can actually pop the descent stage on here properly now, where it's supposed to go. If I can actually get the game to cooperate. Oh, had it there for a second. Nope, that is the back module. There we go. Perfect. Now sitting nice and snug in the descent module, which of course has its own engine right here. The descent stage engine, which again, alternator producing 1 electric charge per second, has a max engine ISP of 100 kilonewtons in vacuum, and an kilonewtons of thrust, there we go, and an engine ISP of 450, gimbling range of 1.32, goes right on the bottom there, and is a beautiful engine. Very, very cool indeed. Now I'm just going to kind of pop that off for a moment, though, and grab the next engine, the Aries 5 RS68 first stage engine, which is a big boy and is meant to go on that gigantic fuel tank with the 4 engine nozzles down at the bottom, and is just a nice, powerful engine with a maximum thrust of 1,200 kilonewtons in vacuum, engine ISP of 345 in vacuum, very nice, and a very big gimbling range of 10.5, which it works, and it works well, but I've actually had a little bit of problems with that in launching rockets, because it's so much gimbling that unless you turn on the fine-tuned controls, it can actually make it very easy to lose control of your rocket launch, as that's just a large degree of gimbling there, which, is still quite nice. So we'll pop that off there, and what the heck, replace it with the intended engine. Perfect. Now the next area we're going into is the command and control, and in here we have the Altair Descent Stage RCS, which is just a nice little RCS block of thrusters to go right there. Very handy. And we also have the Altair Avionics, which, oh boy, we've kind of put things in various places. It goes on the top of the capsule. There's that attachment point right there, and so you just kind of pop it to the side. Beautiful. And it fits in nicely, so you have the whole thing pointing there and there. Very nice. And overall, it's just an SAS system to assist you in your flying. Always good to have. Now, next is in structural, where we have one part in particular, which is the Aries 5 core stage LFT adapter, which goes between the core stage and adapts it to the departure stage, as they are two slightly different sizes. And if we just pop this thing out there, as well, you'll see how big it is. I mean, just look at the size of this thing. It's gigantic, but of course very useful for going between those two fuel tanks. Now, next is coupling, and this is why I actually kept out the oh my god, why do we keep forgetting the name of that thing? The departure stage. There we go. Ah, boy. And in here we have two very important decouplers, the first being the Aries 5 payload decoupler, which is sort of designed for this whole thing in here, so that it'll attach the whole lander stage to the rocket and of course decouple it, and is quite nice with good ejection force on there. And then after that you would attach this thing to your rocket. There we go. And then this Aries J2X decoupler then goes down at the bottom here. You're actually meant to then have, oh, wrong tab, an engine, of course, at the bottom. And then notice on this decoupler the interesting attachment points. We have one basically right at the end of it here, but then another attachment point down here. And that's meant to go down on that engine and actually go around this section of the departure stage. As you see, it does sort of taper down a bit. And the idea for this is that it will decouple this whole stage, but also help move it away, as it does have solid fuel engines with a 384 kilonewtons of thrust in atmosphere. And that is what it is meant to do, to sort of thrust everything away and decouple it nice and safely. Hopefully. That's, you know, the intention, the hope, the dream. And then, of course, that adapter then goes down here. There we go, and then you have that giant fuel tank on the bottom. And so that is coupling, and then in payload, we of course have these fairings that do fit quite nicely onto those side attachment points that I pointed out on the fuel tank earlier, so you can actually add some more aerodynamics to things. Always good. And nothing in actual aerodynamics. On ground, though, we have the Altair landing gear, which is very convenient, very nicely made. There we go. And of course, you know me, sucker for animation. There it is. It sort of folds inward and fits perfectly in line, as you can see there, with our adapter and decoupler for the top stage. And yeah, just kind of opens and closes there very nicely. And then we have nothing in thermal, nothing in electrical communication. We do have the Altair dish antenna, which of course is a data transmitter and goes just, you know, on the actual capsule. And then the final thing, oh wait, no, we have, yes, two more things. There we are. I thought a bit wrong there for a second. So the first is the Altair Processing Lab, which is nice. It goes on this little attachment point right there at the back, and is quite cool because this is actually a full science lab, and it has a space for one Kerbal to fit inside, but also is an unmanned command pod, and also holds 600 electric charge, and has that lovely tunnel going between our main capsule and the actual processing lab. And of course you might be thinking, well, oh no, what if once we actually need to ascend back to orbit, what are you gonna do? They're attached. Well, we can retract the access tunnel. There we go, and it detaches itself right there, as you can see, so that you can, you know, detach safely from the lander and go back into orbit. And of course, you know, it's a lovely little processing lab that can actually do science. And if we take this fairing off here, you'll notice that the hatch is right there on the side, so you can get Kerbals out from here to then explore the world, which of course they will need our final part, the retractable ladder, which is quite nice and sort of goes here at an angle-ish if, you know, you hold down shift and kind of rotate it a bit, because, of course, when we extend this thing, you can notice that it actually sort of pops out a bit and then down, and that is to make room for the actual landing legs, as this is meant to go right there, and it goes perfectly over the landing legs so your Kerbal can come out of the hatch down the ladder without having to, you know, get stopped by this RCS engine here. So they actually have plenty of room to go down, and the thing just, of course, retracts in nicely. Very good part overall. So let's actually open up a, well, two ships that I actually made earlier. The first being the Aries 5 to see the entire rocket, oh boy, as it should be made to actually get this into space. And remember, of course, like I said, this is meant to be used in conjunction with either Hoyo CSM or Aries 1X, and the Aries 1X would add in some nice solid rocket boosters on the side, and, you know, just some more other parts. But overall, this is a really, really big rocket. So let's go to launch and just take a quick look at this one, because of course we're going to take a bit more extended of a look at the actual lander itself. And there we go, nicely launched and gigantic. Oh dear God, this rocket is huge, but very fun, though a bit wobbly. This is actually one problem I have with this mod at the moment, is this whole section right here actually doesn't hold together very well, which is why you can see that I have added a load of additional struts to try and keep it together. But that being said, if you do have joint reinforcement mod installed, it should be okay, but since I'm testing it without it, this central section gets a bit wobbly during spaceflight. So let's actually just do a quick little launch so you can see the engines and all of this functioning together. So let's throttle up and fire at will. And just with those 4 engines, without needing the Aries 1X solid rocket boosters, this thing can actually get into space. I have gotten it into an orbit with some very, very careful flying. But like I said, with the high degree of gimbling range on these engines, 10 degrees, and this whole top bit of being a little wobbly without Kerbal joint reinforcement, this is what the problem can arise. It kind of loses control easily and starts getting very, very wobbly. As you can see, that is the weak point right there, and it just kind of gets worse and worse as time goes on. But that, again, if you fly carefully, have Kerbal joint reinforcement, you should be fine. So let's actually revert flight real quick to the vehicle assembly building and just go take a look at the lander now, as that's the important part, because, I mean, come on, that's got the fun interiors and all that sort of thing. It's just cool. And I'm also now realizing I forgot to throw a 4th Kerbal in there. Oh well, we can actually go and grab Valentina here and actually transfer her over. That should be more than suitable, since the seat she's sitting in at the bottom is pretty much, you know, the same view Bob has. So here we are, the nice, lovely lander all together. Very cool, very well built, very well modeled. Overall, I really, really do love this thing. And if we actually take a look at the internal view real quick, very nice cockpit, and as you can see, it is all raster prop monitor, and you don't have to worry, it comes pre-packaged with it, so you don't have to worry about downloading it separately, so you can have this nice glass cockpit without much fuss. So let's go over to our, of course, second seat pilot here. Very nice with everything. We can, of course, fiddle around with stuff. Good times. You gotta love raster prop monitor. It's just fun. Then go to the downstairs area. That is the seat Valentina was in until I transferred her through that hatch there. And yeah, this is the downstairs area. Nice little rack of supplies. We do, of course, still have a screen, though, if we do want to do something, which is always lovely. And, of course, some nice little pictures down there. And then, finally, we have Valentina in the science lab, which, again, is a fully functioning science lab, because, I mean, come on, who doesn't love science? And, yeah, just a nice, kind of cramped little space. But it is usable. So let's actually get Valentina out real quick to show off the ladder, etc. So let's get her out on EVA. And this is what I meant, like, for why the ladder gets placed here, because we could kind of go this way, but she'd get blocked by the RCS port. So really the only place to go down is right here, if she'd grab the ladder. Grab the ladder. Uh-oh. Is she in a bad place? Oh, nope, grabbed the wrong thing. Oh, I had it for a second there. Oh, boy. Oh, yeah, you gotta love the placement. Oh, it was working so well moments ago and in testing. And there we go, just had to fall a bit. There we are, so now she's on the ladder, can go down, and you can see just the gigantic, overwhelming size of this thing. She is tiny in comparison to the rest of this, and that is just awesome. I mean, look at it. It is gorgeous and just big. And, of course, very, very useful. But, yeah, that's really all I have to say about this mod. We could set off the engines, but frankly, they're not gonna do a thing because, of course, they're built for, you know, off-world environments like on the moon. So they would just start making flames and smoke and not actually go anywhere. But, of course, when you do need to leave, you decouple the actual Ascent capsule and just fly away. Of course, after retracting the tunnel there, because, yeah, you don't want to keep that attached while you're, you know, still on the ground. That would be bad. But yeah, that is going to be it for this episode, guys. If you do want to check this out for yourself, which I would definitely suggest you go and do, you can take a look at the link in the description as per usual. But that is going to be it for this episode. I hope you all have enjoyed, and of course that you do come back for the next, when hopefully we'll be looking at yet another wonderful mod. But until that time, thank you for watching, my friends, and as always, have a good one.